Okay, so here we are. Now, the one thing I didn't do is the painful part. This is just why is the DSRA such a nightmare? Now, I'll tell you what I did. I uh, the DSRA depends on the level of debt, and that occurs whether you have a regular old equal installment or constant repayments. Now, the constant repayments aren't so bad. In the constant repayment scenario, what we do is first, I should tell you, I added a sculpting switch. Notice I did this without recording a video a little bit. I don't know. I'm still too nervous to do this with the video, but I added a switch for if you're in the sculpting mode or the regular mode. Now, if you're in the regular mode, which means the sculpting mode is set to switch, the sculpting switch set to false, then what we can do, let's call it constant DSRA, okay, and we'll have a sculpt DSRA. Now, the constant DSRA is first, you don't have to compute it. This is what I was saying. I didn't finish my sentence. You don't have to do it inside the loop. All you need inside the loop that goes around the construction periods, because the DSRA is after the construction period. So here's the constant DSRA, and we need the end of the construction, the amount of the debt funded. And this debt funded, here's the mistake I made. The debt funded, I put it after here. The debt funded is you go around each time, you get the debt funded, comes back, recomputes, and that's where the circular reference comes from. You need the debt funded to compute the DSRA. Now, once you have the DSRA, at the very end of the period, you say, okay, here's how much debt DSRA is computed. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, and then you go around. Now, you start with the COD, which is the end of the construction plus one. And then if you're going to the if your DSRA periods is one, you just go to the same period. So I kept on messing this up, but you only have to add one period. And then you add the interest. The interest is the debt balance. The debt balance starts with the amount of debt funded you have. You multiply that by the interest rate, and then you go around and around for each period, subtract the repayment. And the debt service is the interest plus the repayment, of course, and then the debt service sum is the debt service plus the interest repayment. Okay. Now, and that initial DSRA, which look at this. This constant DSRA is the sum of the debt service over the debt service periods. Okay, so it was a pain, but I believe it worked. Let's show you how it worked. So if we go to the model, now I'm going to yeah, let's put 12, but let's make sure this is where's the repayment? So let's make sure that this sculpted is set to false. Come on, come on. Okay. Now, when we do this, you notice that this is the amount that this is the sum of the actual financing, and this is the computed item that breaks the circular reference. Uh-oh. Oh, there's a tiny, tiny bit of difference. Oh, shit. Just a minute. Okay. Do we have to, did it, okay. No, I think probably it still doesn't work. Okay, now I'm gonna have to pause this because I thought it was all working. Okay, this is a weird video because I'm going to just switch it on and off as I struggle with this, and it's a very big struggle. Now, when I put let's just see what happened here. When I put 6 months in here, everything is seems to be just fine. Now, when I put 12 months in here, what happens then is we were supposed to go around 2 periods, and we make the interest on the debt balance, and the debt balance gets smaller by the repayment, so the interest goes down. The interest plus the repayment is the debt service, and that's supposed to be added. S-E-R-V-I-C-E, S-E-R-V-I-C-E. So I can't really see the mistake, and it's very, very frustrating. So if and I'm not swearing, I'm going to swear, I'm sure. If I put 36 months, let's make a very long debt service reserve account, then we have a difference here. The difference gets larger, so there's something going on with this debt service reserve account. Now, the function just gets put into one account. I'm gonna put the DSRA over here. So let's make a function go into two. I said account, I meant cell. So we're gonna make a function go into 2 different cells. So this is gonna be a little bit about auditing functions and trying to figure out where you made a mistake. And I want to do this efficiently now. I never use that debug function, and I'm sure some people do. I can't do it. So to do this, I believe you put as variant. So that's the first thing you do. Okay. And then what we want is the output. We want to have a dimension output as 2 with 2 different, and it can be named anything, of course. Okay. And let me see. And then eventually debt funded is going to be equal to output. Okay. And so I'm going to put debt funded, let's call it debt funded 1, okay, because we've already defined debt funded. So now why don't we, this is where we're finishing the function. Okay, so we had a little test whether the debt funded compared to the last debt funded was the same. And what we can do is put output 1 equals, and the reason we can put output 1, oops, oh shit, is we use this option base 1 at the top, excuse me. Output 1 equals D equals debt debt funded. So that's going to be the same thing okay, but then output 2 is going to be equal to how about we'll put DSRA computed. Okay, and blah, 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 blah. And finally, debt funded 1 equals output. Okay, and then we of course need the end if. Okay, now I know this video's not, I'm kind of drabbing along with my voice, and I've been criticized for making these things too absurdly boring, but let's try this. Now, I should have remembered something. I'm sure I forgot something when I did my whole function thing here, but I'm going to, let's try this. And if it's not going to work, so I'm going to swear. So what you do is you shade this and press F2, call this debt funded 1. And then because it's an array variable, I'm pressing Shift Control Enter. Shift Control Enter. And then, aha, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so damn bad at all. And, you know, so here's what, perhaps the error here is not an error in the function. Here's the function. Maybe the error is in the calculation here itself. So I'm going to switch it off and try to look for this error, why we have a difference. Maybe somebody else can see this, but at least let's just review this. So in case you want to make an array function in your thing, it wasn't all that bad. Let's go to step by step. So step 1 is, I'm going to put, how about I'll do it right here. Let's put steps to make array function. Okay, step 1 is to define function as variant. Step 2 is to define some kind of output variable with dim, with a dimension. Okay. Dimension array is length of the output. Is that okay? And then only the third thing, assign the function output name to the variable name. So I'm hoping this video is not completely a waste, that we can show you how to make a variable Jesus array variable with this. Okay, now I'm gonna pause this and see if we can find something. Okay, so this was actually not that difficult to do. The problem was not in the programming. We did the programming correctly. The problem was here. I didn't add. Do you see this thing that says K8? That K8 here, that's the final construction switch, and I had a mistake. I didn't do that. So we were putting too much in the debt service reserve account before the end of the start of the construction. So that's good news. So we have that done. Now the next thing we're going to try, that this works. It's so exciting that this works. If we put 12, let's just see, and I'll be, it's still 0. This is still working. Everything's kind of okay. You know, and I just, if no, I'm not gonna look and see what happens to this, but okay, enough. I'm saying too much. I got screamed at for that. Okay, now let's try the next one, which is going to be a horrible experience. We're going to take this sculpted DSRA, and the sculpted DSRA, well, let's just see this. Now, we need an LLCR to do this. The LLCR, if you remember, if you've got perfect sculpting, now if you do fancy sculpting where the DSCR is not always constant, this doesn't quite work. But if you are given the debt amount, which we assumed in this, that's where we started this whole exercise. If we were given the debt amount, and then we want to use, and we have a constant DSCR, well, the LLCR and the DSCR are the same. LLCR is the present value of the cash flow available for debt service divided by the level of debt. So we have the debt funded here, and then we can get the DSCR. Now all we need to do is get the present value of the debt service. The reason I had hoped that you could do this without putting it in a function was that the DSRA is primarily a function of the PV of the CFADS, which has nothing at all right now unless we put interest, income, and taxes in, which you should put in. But if you don't put those in, then we're independent, okay? Which means we could compute this. Now, if we had the LLCR defined, everything, we'd have no circular reference, but the LLCR itself depends not on the denominator here, and the denominator depends on the DSRA, and that's why it sucks. Okay, so then we have the debt balance is equal to the debt funding, just like we had in our last account. And this time we first go around the whole thing and get the PV of the CFADS. Okay. Now, I'm almost tempted to you could almost make this one a variant too. You know, I think we should get the PV of the CFADS, which is independent of anything. So if we want to just quickly see if this is going to work, this is called initial DSRA sculpt this time. And um, let's to just kind of figure out if this is going to work. Why don't we put PV CFADS? Okay. Now, when we do all of this, suppose, we can just leave this the same way. Now, uh, then I just want to use our second variable in here that we used as kind of just a checking variable. So this one is going to be, yeah, that will work. No, 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 no. We have to put the sculpting switch on. So we're going to have to compute this one. So let's take this, just copy this one into we're going to copy this one into the DSRA computed line. Okay. And we'll, okay. Now, so we have sculpt switch, and then now what we need to do is read in the CFADS. There's a way, and there's a way to make these optional variables, but we don't need to get that fancy because I'm trying to explain how you customize this for your own analysis, not to make some kind of model that works in every single circumstance in the world, because you can see that so many are different. Okay, so let's try this. So we're gonna now switch to this to sculpted. Okay, it's very likely that we've got some values. I'm not surprised by this. Don't worry about this. And then you remember what we do is we look down here. Now I'm going to go under Google and see if there's a way to this CFADS is an array variable. So actually we have it. I happen to be on the right place. I don't know why. Okay, so we now, oh, the good news is we have something. The bad news is I'm sure it doesn't work. Well, this DSRA is completely wrong, but we did compute the PV of the CFADS, and we can see if that PV of the CFADS down here. So we have the CFADS and the LLCR PV of the CFADS during the debt repayment is nowhere. 44290. Oh, it's not so horribly wrong. Okay, 44290. Okay, I'll delete that in a minute. Now why don't we, to check if this is okay, what we could do is just quickly turn off the interest. I have a simple interest rate. Okay. And 53. So we've got some kind of mistake in the way I did the discounting. Okay, so I'm gonna switch this off, find my mistake, but I hope you get the idea of checking this horrible stuff. Okay, here we go. This is going off. Okay, so that wasn't so bad. I made a kind of idiotic mistake where I I added the interest rate instead of multiplying it times 1 plus the interest rate. I didn't compound it. What a ridiculous mistake. And my senility is killing me here. So we have, so this works, okay. And now let's see if we can. So now let's see if we get the debt service right. Remember we added the repayment. Now let's see what we did here. The interest repayment is that once we had the DLC, LLCR, target debt service is the CFADS every period divided by the LLCR. The interest is just the regular old interest payment. Repayment is the target DSCR minus the interest. That's the standard kind of sculpting formula. And then we have the debt balance going down by the repayment. And the rest is the same. So what we do to check this now is we press F2, and I hope you're excited by this, you know. And of course, there's a mistake here because the DSRA is not computed. Perhaps, no. So again, there's an error. Good. So we can go back and check. Okay, I didn't let you see the exciting part where it was all fixed, but of course I made a mistake. I really wish these mistakes I made were not, I really wish they were on purpose, but we didn't compute PV of CADS down here, so we had to compute the LLCR after the PV of the CFADS. I'll make an excuse for me. At first we just read it in, and this time I computed it. So the good news is we can. It kind of works. So well, it does work. So this is another example where after you've done the work, the feeling should just be so good. You worked so hard at this. So if we put 12 periods in here with sculpting, it's still 0. We get the DSRA right, and we can do all sorts of sensitivity analysis on what happens if now the debt service account, reserve account, is a pretty big deal in the context of the cost of the project. So in fact, it's in this solar case, it's a bigger deal than the rest of these things. Okay. Uh, okay, and I think that is the end, thankfully, of this second video.